How to Change by Katy Milkman. You're accustomed to self-help guidance. You are aware that you ought to set bold objectives. You are aware of the significance of habits. You write in your bullet journal every night. And you create a lengthy to-do list each morning. But you continue to fall short of your objectives. How should you proceed? If the resources at your disposal don't result in positive change, how are you going to accomplish your objectives and modify your life? There is a link between inability to adapt to a number of universal human vices, including procrastination, impulsivity, and laziness. They highlight how these shortcomings prevent us from attaining our objectives and present a straightforward plan for dodging each defect. Why making New Year's resolutions isn't foolish, how taking advice might be detrimental, and how one bank increased its clients' savings by 80%. Do you tend to set resolutions for the new year? Several of us do. No matter how intense the celebrations were the night before, January 1st is often a day of optimism. Something about welcoming a new year and saying goodbye to the previous one makes difficult tasks seem doable and mistakes from the past appear distant. But other people are dubious about making resolutions for the new year. Why, after all, would a diet be successful in January if it was unsuccessful in December? Isn't it absurd to believe that the beginning of a new year will make your goals suddenly simpler to accomplish? There is a response to that query, I suppose. Here, the main point is, it may be simpler to alter after a new beginning. It is not irrational to believe that pursuing our goals will be simpler in the new year. This is a fact. In actuality, this rule holds true after any significant event or fresh start, such as a birthday, the beginning of a new semester, or the Monday of any typical week. When the author and her colleagues examined data from campus exercise centers, they found that. Yet why? Why do some dates inspire us so powerfully? In other words, a new beginning alters our viewpoint. It creates a gap between our prior, unsuccessful attempts at transformation and the upcoming one. It starts over from scratch. The bigger the milestone, the more encouraged we feel, which is why some dates are more beneficial than others for inspiring change. But the news isn't all good. Undoubtedly, a new beginning can bring about change, but not all change is good. Holidays can lead to issues, according to two different studies that looked at college students' use of the gym. The vacation undoubtedly gave the pupils a chance to start again, but the only change it brought about was a disruption in their brand new, wholesome habits. What then is the lesson? It's easy. Aim to take advantage of fresh starts like birthdays, new semesters, and anniversaries by starting something new, but be careful not to revert to your old, established patterns. So, you're attempting to alter. You've been waiting for a new beginning, and you're now eager to move on, but something isn't working out. Even though you have the proper intentions, it's difficult for you to fully commit to your big ideas and projects. Instead of picking up your textbook or some fruit, you catch yourself grabbing for your phone or a bar of chocolate. Simply put, you're allowing impulsivity to win. The term present bias also applies to impulsivity. When you act impulsively, you put smaller, short-term goals ahead of bigger, longer-term ones. Your bias causes you to choose small, immediate pleasures like chocolate above bigger, longer-term rewards like greater health. Fortunately, impulsivity is treatable. The main takeaway from this is to use gamification and temptation packaging to control your impulsivity. Mary Poppins, a character in a well-known musical from the 1960s, once said that a spoonful of sugar makes medication go down. This is sound advice when it comes to managing impulsivity. The author describes a tactic known as temptation bundling. It's a strategy for making the work seem more enticing by combining a joyful activity with a difficult but important one, much like Mary Poppins did when she added some sugar to some unpleasant medicine. For instance, you might allow yourself to indulge in your favorite confectionery while you're studying or jog on the treadmill. One research involved Florida children packing Temptations while they worked on arithmetic problems. To the amazement of their teachers, the students actually did more work when they were permitted to consume snacks, listen to music, and draw with magic markers. Bundling temptation, however, is not always effective. Burgers cannot be had while jogging, and preparing for an exam cannot be done while sleeping in. Thus, gamification may offer a more effective remedy for impulsivity in specific circumstances. Gamification is the process of enhancing real-world tasks with aspects of video games, such as leaderboards, points, and awards. An economist by the name of Jana Gallus used gamification at Wikipedia to encourage the vast volunteer staff of editors. Top editors may receive public acknowledgement on the website or amass badges next to their names depending on how well they perform. These inconsequential benefits didn't cost anything to Wikipedia, but the gamification was sufficient to prevent the volunteer editors from becoming sidetracked. Additionally, it raised their participation by 20% the next month. Everyone delays doing things. We put off saving for retirement, going to the gym, and submitting our taxes. We are aware that we should probably get started today, but what's another hour, day, or week? Not much when viewed alone. But as time passes, it adds up, and we finally find ourselves frustrated, dissatisfied, and unprepared once more. In our worst moments, we may feel compelled to do it because we've put it off for so long that it now seems inevitable. The good news is that we can overcome our procrastination tendencies. Here, the main point is, utilize commitment tools to beat procrastination. The head of the Green Bank in the Philippines, Omar Andaya, had an issue. Actually, it was a common issue for banks. Clients just weren't saving enough. Yes, they wanted to, but just like everyone else, they found reasons to put things off. Andaya made a peculiar choice after speaking with a panel of scholarly specialists. He offered a few hundred consumers a locked savings account as an experiment. They could deposit money into it, but they couldn't withdraw any funds until a predetermined balance was reached or a predetermined date had passed. In other words, it was a standard commitment tool, a framework for limiting freedom in order to reduce temptations. And it achieved great success. Customers that were given locked accounts saved 80% more the following year than ordinary clients did. You can still use commitment devices to overcome procrastination even though you can no longer save money with the Green Bank in the Philippines. One of the broadest categories is cash commitment devices. A simple cash commitment mechanism is to make procrastination costly, thereby putting your money where your mouth is. To do this, choose a friend to keep track of your progress and disclose your goals with her. If she discovers that you have been slacking, she may fine you a predetermined sum. Don't worry if you're unsure that you can afford to pay. Public commitments are less expensive yet still remarkably successful. You can generate a strong incentive to keep working hard by telling your friends and family about your goals. After all, if you announce on Twitter that you're writing a novel, it would be embarrassing not to finish it one day. Laziness is a frequent fault, so prevalent that we teach youngsters proverbs and fables about the negative effects of being idle and the importance of doing honest, hard labor. For instance, the fable of the little red hen and the story of the ant and the grasshopper both aim to teach kids that working hard pays off while being lazy might lead to problems. But despite these cautions, the majority of us nevertheless give in to laziness occasionally. In fact, one of the major challenges we have when trying to change is our innate propensity to choose the simple solution. Habits have a part in this. The main takeaway is that you can overcome laziness by developing good habits. You probably have a morning ritual that you automatically follow, such as getting dressed, taking a shower, making coffee, and getting breakfast before getting in the car and driving to work. Whatever you do, you probably don't give it much consideration since habits have the potential to make things happen without conscious effort. However, habits don't only control morning rituals. If you're clever about it, you can train your brain to become just as automatic with unpleasant behaviors as it is with the components of your 8 a.m. routine. Examples of this include hard workouts or rigorous study sessions. It's not simply a hunch, either. According to research by neuroscientists, the more deeply entrenched a habit is, the less we rely on the prefrontal cortex and other reasoning regions of the brain and more we rely on the action and motor control regions. How can you then use this knowledge to make change easier? It's simple, all it takes is a consistent, conscious effort to form excellent behavior into a habit. Imagine that you've been hunching over your desk in pain for years and want to start sitting up straight. How do you behave? Well, you should begin by exercising. Improve your posture while you are seated every day until it comes naturally to you. And remember to treat yourself after you finish what you started because associating an activity with something enjoyable encourages repeating it. Laziness cannot take root until your behaviors become automatic, and change begins to feel much simpler. A psychologist and researcher named Lauren S. Grace Winkler had made a remarkable observation. Everyone she spoke with was overflowing with counsel. Everyone had advice and ideas on the best course of action, whether the subject was getting in shape, cutting back on expenses, or saving more money. This presented a conundrum to S. Grace Winkler. Some of the persons giving her advice on how to cut costs had amassed considerable debt themselves. Some of the persons giving money-saving tips didn't even have pennies saved up for an emergency. S. Grace Winkler was particularly perplexed by the fact that a lot of the counsel these folks were dispensing was truly sound advice. So why didn't they simply do what they were told? She came to the conclusion that people lack confidence as the cause. The main takeaway from this is to give counsel to others in order to increase your own confidence. People prefer to lend a hand to one another. When we see someone struggling, we strive to help, and frequently, our help comes in the shape of advice. We provide advice on dating, making friends, parenting, and dieting. Although it has good intentions, it frequently backfires. Grace Winkler found that uninvited counsel and guidance can act as significant barriers to change when she studied the psychology of providing and receiving it. Giving someone unsolicited counsel, whether we recognize it or not, implies that they can't change on their own, which is a major blow to their self-confidence at the worst possible time. Grace research Winkler's has a positive flip side, so all is not lost, thankfully. Giving advice can actually increase our confidence in our ability to change, just as receiving it can undermine it. When the author and Grace Winkler collaborated to research the relationships between guidance and academic success in high school, they came to that conclusion. The end-of-term grades of the pupils who were given the task of creating study advice for their younger classmates saw a considerable improvement. How can you use this realization in your own life, then? So, think of starting advice clubs with friends or coworkers. Contrary to popular belief, providing someone with requested advice can make you feel more confident in your own abilities. If that doesn't appeal to you, try addressing your problems as if you were giving advice to a friend in a similar situation. You'll be astonished at how shrewd and assured you can be when you pretend that you're giving advice to someone else. Therefore, if your pals give you unwanted advice, they may unintentionally hinder your success. However, this does not imply that when you are trying to change, your social circle is always an issue. In fact, if you know how to use your friends effectively, they might be one of your greatest assets. Due to our innate propensity for succumbing to social pressure, one of the reasons our peers matter so much is because of this. Now, the majority of the time, this is viewed as a flaw. Do you recall being advised as a child to avoid social pressure? But that just tells half the tale. You see, peer pressure has the power to influence how you act. But it can also keep you on the straight and narrow if you have the appropriate friends. The main takeaway from this is that your peers may transform you, so pick them wisely. Scott Carell, a UC Davis economist, was shocked to learn that his twin brother was performing better than him in many subjects while he was a student at the U.S. Air Force Academy. When the twins first came at the academy, something had changed, and Carell's brother had gradually gained ground. In high school, Carell had been the better student. Later, Carell made the decision to put his theory to the test. He surmised that his brother's new friend group was the key to his brother's academic success. The social impact of being surrounded by diligent and intelligent cadets was strong enough to inspire his brother to start studying more than he ever had. Carell made the decision to do the math and looked at the grades of more than 3,500 first-year cadets. He discovered that a cadet's own GPA increased by 0.4 grade points on a 4.0 scale for every 100 points increase in the average verbal SAT score of a squadron. This is the difference between receiving B's and receiving straight A's. When choose who to spend time with, consider these social impacts since, whether you realize it or not, your peers have an impact on your success. In actuality, you don't have to rely just on social influences. If you have a buddy whose success you'd like to imitate, start by following her lead. Ask her how she managed to speak 3 languages, raise her children with such grace, or prepare such delectable vegan meals. You may frequently imitate someone's achievement by copying and pasting their strategies. You must address each of your shortcomings separately if you want to make changes in your life and accomplish your goals. Regardless of whether you choose to address your laziness, impulsivity, or bad habits first, make sure you handle your shortcomings specifically and utilize commitment devices, positive habits, social influences, and temptation bundling. What you ought to do in order to put your newfound information to use. Compliment someone's effort rather than their inherent talent. When you compliment someone on their inherent talents, you run the risk of helping them form a fixed mindset, which means that when they do fail, they'll see it as a reflection of their true worth and inherent talents. On the other hand, when you compliment someone's effort, you imply that effort leads to success. Therefore, instead of telling a coworker that she has a knack for giving persuasive speeches, compliment her on how her abilities are constantly developing. Thanks for watching.